All right, everyone. Welcome to my presentation. Let me start the timer. Welcome to my presentation on AI in the pedagogy of architecture. And we're going to try to answer this question. Should AI be used in the pedagogy of architecture? And I'm hoping we can answer this question together. We're just going to be looking at 5 different things. We just need to understand how AI works, AI in the industry. I have a few examples of how I use AI, and then some other useful ways that we could use it in academia, and then my final thoughts on the matter. Now, we have this video here. I want to just play it for you to see. And you can tell me, this was a prompt that was used to generate this AI video, right? And basically, it's telling a cat is trying to wake up its owner because it's hungry, right? So I want us to just take a quick look on this video. This was pretty famous, and just tell me if you notice anything weird, anything off. Everything seems normal. This cat is trying to, I'm repeating it again, it's trying to wake up the owner. It's like, anybody, anything weird? This last time. Okay, we're gonna do it in slow motion, right? And I want to point out something. So here we go. This hand here is a little weird, but let's ignore that, right? Person smiling, everything seems seemingly normal. Comes around and look at the arm and whoa, what? No, what? Look at this, right? What is this? A piece of a hand. I think this is a third leg because the two cat leg. What? Wait. Yep, that's 2 legs right there. So. And the hand is like, I'm not sure how this body part works, but anyway, you guys get the idea, right? So AI, definition of AI is basically that it enables computers and machines to simulate human intelligence and for problem solving. This is what we're hoping for in architecture. A good example of AI is in video games. Like if you look here, this is Pac-Man. When Pac-Man gets the powers, he can eat the enemies, but when he doesn't have those powers, the enemies is programmed to run him down and try and eat him. See, running, get the power, then the enemy starts to run. So that's an example of AI but it's AI that you can call it narrow AI because the programmers has pre-programmed these enemies to act in that manner. Right. Now, the big deal about AI is because of the continuous development of machine learning, right? And it's kind of like a snowballing effect. This was perhaps one of the first kind of noticeable breakthroughs with AI. This is a very old game called Breakout. I never played it, but I played like modern versions of it. It's like a typical game you'd have on your phone. Basically, you're trying to hit the ball to break these blocks, and you're trying to do it as efficient as possible. And in this case, the AI is the one that's controlling the paddle. So this is an example of machine learning where, okay, the AI learns that, oh, if you let the ball go below the below here, you lose. So try and keep it there. But one of the interesting things that happened is that all on its own, it learned that if he hits the ball in the corners mainly, notice it's only attacking the corners. If he hits it in a way, then the ball itself can do the work for you. So in this case, the AI was just being like really efficient. And that's a good example of what machine learning is. So it's really like a snowballing effect. Machine learning led to deep learning, led to generative AI, and that leads to large language models, LLMs, and these are the words that we're used to today. We see in the headlines, we see in Midjourney, DALL-E, ChatGPT, and a few others that we may not know, like Chrome AI. AI is just popping up pretty much everywhere. So an LLM is basically a type of AI that is designed to understand and generate output based on studying a large amount of data, right? Very, very large. At the heart of language models is what's called a transformer. And all this is a way for programmers to tune what the AI should study and what it should produce, right? because a large language model can study pretty much any kind of data, but not every single, like it's really efficient when it's good at one thing. So for example, if it's about generating images, if for example UTech wanted to put all their policies that has ever been created since CAST up till today and tune a transformer so that it can identify solutions, if somebody asks a question, what if I bump my toe in class, who is responsible for paying me or whatever, the transformer is what you would tune to be able to get an appropriate response, right? And this is like a totally oversimplified way of explaining that, but just for concept. And the transformer is the T in ChatGPT, general pre-trained transformer, right? So the truth about AI is that it doesn't, this was from one of my favorite books, I think, that explained it the best. It doesn't really understand, but it can recognize pattern. So for example, king and queen will generate a pattern 100 100. Husband and wife generates a pattern 100 101. The AI is like, these patterns are similar. This one is a little different, but they are 90% similar. So therefore, king and queen probably equals to husband and wife, right? Another good example of this is, for example, can cats speak? I mean, it's a general question. If I'm talking about a cartoon, then sure, Garfield the cat can speak. But if I'm talking about a real cat, it can't. So the beauty of the transformer is that it understands context. So in the context of a cartoon cat, yes, cats can speak, but the AI doesn't really know if cats can speak or not. It's just that when you're speaking about a cartoon cat, it generates a pattern, and it assumes that because it generates that pattern, you're talking about cartoon cats, and in that case, cartoon cats can speak. So the three takeaways we have from understanding AI is that we need large quantities of data. You can tune it to study a particular type of data, and that it doesn't really know or understands. It just simply recognizes patterns and make assumptions based on patterns. Now, architecture, the way that we can understand AI is, let's look at what is happening in the industry. Academia is tied to industry. Sometimes it leads industry, and sometimes it reflects what the trend is in the industry. So following that, this is probably one of the most recent studies that was done. This study was asking 1,000 respondents. Majority of them was in the US, asking them, are you currently using AI in your workplace? Pretty much half of them said yes. Interesting note. If we go here, we say, have you experimented with AI tools in your design? How have you done it? And majority of persons say, okay, well, we do text and images, we do image editing. This is interesting. We do conceptualization and pre-design. These are the ones that has the most use. So that is telling us something. So I have two examples to show you, right? This one is actually a project that I worked on. It's not complete yet, but I am using AI in it, and I've been using AI for a while now. But so I picked the most recent one, and essentially it's a concept of a luxury villa, and the process of coming up with the design is pretty straightforward. I have my what's called a precedence images here, right? And also I have precedence image that are AI. So I have two types of precedence images, and this was like my bubble diagram that's kind of giving me an idea where stuff are. This is just conceptual. This is what the final project looks like. Now, the process of getting here, or rather the process of creating my mood board, I have now divided it into real world and AI, because there's inspirations that I also got from generating this AI image, right? So in order to do that, I would have to give it a prompt, and not to go into too much detail, but there is a particular way to ask AI for things, right? And especially in architecture, you want to structure your sentence in medium subject, as in how you define the subject. In this case, it's a building, and environment. So for example, this is what I asked AI: give me an exterior photograph taken with a 35mm lens, camera of the front entrance of an ultra luxurious residential villa duplex that has 2 floors with the entrance between each unit. The villa has an infinity edge pool with a deck in the center of the pool. The villa is a clean, contemporary, semi-brutalist Caribbean colonial style with ribbed roof, stucco walls, and a pool deck. There is a wooden trellis feature that extends over the pool. The villa sits on a slope that slope towards the entrance of the building and terminates at the cliff edge overlooking a beautiful tropical sunset. There are African American kids playing in the pool while seagulls fly in the sky. Now that is a pretty hefty sentence, but with that, I was able to generate images like these. And what I do is that for architectural elements, I use real world precedents. But for more inspirational stuff, I would use AI generated things. So for example, I might look at this type of roof and say, I didn't think about using this kind of roof here. And maybe this railing type is interesting, or, but at the same time, there are things that doesn't make any sense. So for example, you have two chairs here, and they're like, how do you get to this chair? So it's just like that video with the arm of the person that disappears and the two-handed cat. It's like, it doesn't know that a cat doesn't have 2 hands. It just recognizes a pattern. So this is just really something based on pattern, but not based on, I want to say, common sense logic. But in doing that, that's a form of creativity. So because some forms of art doesn't have to make sense. So when it comes to concept pictures, I think it can be great. And further experimentation, this one was quite interesting. I took my schematic design and I put them into 2 different AIs. The first one I used was Chrome AI, and I put the same prompt in, and this is what I got. I did the same thing with Dolly, and I had to, this is what I got first, which looks nothing like my building. And I had to have a conversation with AI. These steps here are a conversation. I have to say, hey, my building doesn't look like this. It has it's 2-story, blah, 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 blah. Then it gave me this. Then I have to argue again, then argue again, then argue again. And then eventually it gave me this, right? So what am I saying? If we really think about it, Google, when Google came out or became mainstream, if we wanted to write a history essay about Caribbean architecture, we could go to Google, we could type Google search, essay, history of architecture Caribbean. Here's one. I found it on ABC website. Copy, paste, deliver to teacher. But eventually we realized, we caught up with that, and there are all myriad of tools, just common sense, like any good teacher or lecturer can know when something is copied and pasted. So then, we had to kind of wise up and say, obviously Google is helpful, but not for copy and pasting. So in this case, we say, okay, Google, Google search, essay, history of architecture, Caribbean. oh, it showed me four different articles, three different articles, right? Then I had to read article 1, article 2, article 3, and then I summarized it. Then I handed it to the teacher. The teacher looked at it and said, okay, yeah, okay, good, great. Eventually, we kind of wised up and realized that just copying stuff from Google doesn't work. And people who get multiple sources of information and summarize it, they benefit more at the end of the day. So most people start to use Google plus human. Now, if we take the use of AI and we say, AI, write me a paragraph essay about the history of architecture in the Caribbean. Nice, I got it. Thank you, ChatGPT. Copy, paste, send it into the lecturer. Now, the lecturer might look at it and say, this sounds good, but it's a little weird. Like, it's talking about apples, then it's talking about oranges. Like, parts of it make sense, parts of it doesn't. It sounds very much like one of these pictures. Overall, it sounds good, it looks good, but when you start to look in the details, there are things that you say, but no, this is weird. Are these stairs that goes to the side? Like, what is happening here? It's the very same thing. So eventually, we're going to learn, right? Because if we use the technology, we start to realize that by itself, just like with Google, it doesn't do much. It looks like it does much, but it doesn't do much. Now look at this new method now, AI plus Google plus human. Google search, history of architecture Caribbean. I have 3 articles. Let me summarize it. All right. I have written 10 important points about the history of architecture in the Caribbean. Structure and group these points in a coherent format for me. Thank you, ChatGPT. Bam! I got that. I read it to say, oh, this sounds beautiful. Okay, I need to tweak this and tweak that. Final result. What would the lecturer say? Like, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but I'm just saying that this is the level that we're at now. Now, there are other useful things that we can do with AI. For example, these are other ways that I use it. If I have a long video explaining something complex, maybe it's 3 hours long, I would just put the entire transcript of the video into ChatGPT and say, summarize it with the main points. If I notice one of the main points that I say, this is what I was looking for, then I invest in watching that video. Another thing is, like, sometimes I can't remember something, like, what was the name of that actor? He's a black guy. One of his eyes is always half closed. Anybody know who I'm talking about? If I plug that into AI, it'd say, it would give me a name. And then, of course, I would double check that name to make sure that it's actually the name. But the pattern that I gave it, African American, one eye closed, it uses that pattern to match it. And that's when it can work beautifully. I also asked AI to describe images. Maybe I see a diagram of an HVAC system and I don't quite like, what HVAC system is this representing? Because I don't know anything about HVAC. Or, I put the image in AI and I say, what is this? It say, this is a, ABC type of HVAC system. And I say, and then I know I can start my research there. This one I use a lot, which is to understand very complex things, like explain to me how indirect illumination works in computer science. I'm going to get a very scientific result when I research that. But if I plug that into AI and say, explain this to me using simple metaphors of oranges and apples, somehow it will explain it to me in oranges and apples. Of course, all of this you have to check and double check, right? So my final thoughts are, we invented fire, we burned ourselves up, and then we invented, fire stations and fire hydrants. We invented cars, we start to have accidents, and we invented seatbelts. The difference now is that we are inventing AI because it's still developing. And we have the opportunity now in academia to learn about it before it takes all of our jobs and takes over the world. So, to answer the question, yes, we should definitely use AI in the pedagogy of architecture because of these reasons. It's been used in the industry, and we need to understand it and blah blah blah. That's my presentation. These are my references, and have a good day.